Hello and welcome to the first webinar that is going to be about portfolio building. We'll talk a little bit about what even is a portfolio, why do you need it, and some examples and some guidance on how to create a good portfolio that you can then include in your own resume. So with that being said, let's go to the next slide. So the agenda for today is why do you even need a portfolio? What is a portfolio? How does a good portfolio look like? How to write a good README file to include in your GitHub profile, and some Q's and some A's. So with that being said, let's just dive right into it. First, why even bother making a portfolio? So whenever we're talking about portfolio, we are talking about the thing that you can only use in case you don't have any current experience or commercial experience. So this is very important for people who are self-learners, because without it, you don't really have anything to show that you have actually learned what you are saying that you have actually learned. So without it, it is pretty annoying to be going out and trying to really say something or trying to actually achieve anything when sending out your resumes, because your recruiters will not really know anything about the fact that you have built something. So it is very, very important to actually be able to have something on hand to actually say that you have gathered some sort of experience in any sort of technologies and you have the ability to actually build some projects. So it is very good for, first of all, standing out, because most people, trust me, have really, really bad portfolios. Their portfolios are just like tic-tac-toe, some to-do lists, some libraries, some recipe list, and something that doesn't really stand out and only uses some basic stuff that they have learned on bootcamp, on internet course, and they think that this will just go and be very nice and dandy, right? They don't have any documentation, don't have anything to say in their README file, and this essentially just sucks. So that's why it's very, very important to be able to stand out, because in this day and age, actually, there are quite a lot of people trying to get into IT. However, it is very, very hard to stand out. That's why you need to use every opportunity that you have to really stand out. And one of those is actually building out a portfolio. So the second one is you need to build bigger projects. Without a portfolio, without building any sort of a project, you will not be able to really do it, right? Because let's be perfectly honest, at this point in time, as a programmer, if you are new to it, you don't really know how to build bigger applications. And realistically speaking, building a portfolio is a great opportunity to actually build bigger projects. Because as I've said before, you need to have something that stands out. Also, whenever we're talking about building a portfolio, it means that you need to make it available for other people. So this means that other people will also need to be able to click through it, see it, and try to interact with it. So it needs to be readable for other people, and you need to use Git and GitHub. And then if you give this out in GitHub, then most likely there will be your commit history. So people will be able to see how you commit things, what do you put into your commits, what is the history of the project, because it also very much matters if you are talking about getting hired. I mean, most of the people won't really go through the commit history, but still, if somebody is so diligent, and there are some cases where people do this. In my case, actually, the recruiters that I have been working with before I got hired actually downloaded my repository, tried to break it somehow. They even wrote some tests and tried to find some edge cases in the code. They were this diligent. So even though right now people are trying to get a lot of jobs and there are quite a lot of people coming in, there are still some cases where, for example, if I only copied and pasted this particular portfolio that I had, then it would mean that I would be basically dead on the spot, because I wouldn't be able to really defend myself if the code was not mine, or I didn't know how to write it or how to defend it, essentially speaking. So make sure that your portfolio really is a bigger project that you can then say what is good, what is bad, and why have you done something for this particular project. Then, yeah, we already covered point 3 with that. So this is the only thing that you can present if you don't have commercial experience. So the people that I have been working with that are trying to get the job or already got the job, actually those projects were the ones that have actually been things that have made them stand out from the crowd. Because realistically speaking, in your resume, what is very good to point out is whenever you are creating your resume, in the section of experience, if you have experience that is not really relevant, for example, you are working in a bakery, you are working on train stations or anything like that, or McDonald's for that matter, it's not a shame to really have those. However, it is not very important in the scope that we are talking about. So if we are talking about getting a technical job, then 99% it won't really matter that you have been flipping burgers. It is much more important to pinpoint what your experience has been with certain technologies, with building out projects, what did those projects do. And this is actually a tool that we can only get some help out of by building out the portfolio. So what actually is a portfolio? Essentially, this is just a history of your commitments as a programmer. So not commitments in terms of GitHub, but commitments of the things that you have done, the technologies that you have learned, and something about yourself. Treat it like your card that you are giving out to people whenever you meet them. I'm thinking about this scene from American Psychopath where Patrick Bateman is comparing the visiting cards with other people. So you can essentially think of it a little bit like this, not maybe to this extreme. However, it is very important to notice that this is actually the thing that you will use to let people know about you. Because resume is mostly going to be read by some HR people, but the portfolio that you have will be read by the technical guys. This will be the entry point for them to get to know you. And they are the ones that you need to actually convince that you are good for the job, right? So this is your history. This is everything that you have built up until this point. So we are going to be talking a little bit about what good portfolio looks like versus a bad one, but in just a second. But first, I want to let you know how does a good portfolio look like. So first of all, it's unique. And my best tip for building out a unique portfolio is to actually build something that you yourself will use. For example, there are a ton of APIs on the internet that are there for everyday use. For example, I've had people that were creating projects about the Diablo 3 database for their characters that they would then share with their friends and use it. Somebody has made an application that was based on the game prices comparator between different shops, Steam, Origin, and the Epic Shop, right? So they got all alerts for that. There were people that were using this for tracking their Forex investments, for crypto portfolios, or even some projects about Dungeons and Dragons where you would be able to create your character sheet and even create something to use in your RPG sessions. So I would say that something that suits just for you. For me, it was writing out chess, and I was using JavaFX for it. I have written out all the logic using arrays. I really wasn't good with programming back then, and it was a total nightmare. But I have learned a lot, and actually that was the project that I was, let's say, using as my flagship, right? As my best project that is there, and the one that I was actually able to convince my recruiters to know that I actually know something about the code that I was writing. So it just needs something to be something that is specific to you. If you are on a bootcamp, if you are on an internet course, if you are trying to find out something that you could do, that you could include in your portfolio, and you are afraid that it's not unique enough, then most likely it isn't. Because a lot of people are just using copy and paste templates. Try to do some more deeper searching if we're talking about making your portfolio unique. And then if you don't find anything unique that you can find, then try to contribute to open source projects. Just a quick Google can give you a lot of open source projects in Java, in any other language that is of your choosing, that would actually be able to help you out in contributing to those projects, because then you can include this in your portfolio that, hey, this is the branch of the project that I have been working on. I've included this and that. I have fixed this and this problem in this particular space. So this is also a nice tool to actually build out. So with that, we've got the projects you actually like, because let's be perfectly honest. In the beginning, as a programmer, it is going to become very, very tiring when you work on bigger projects, because you don't really know what you're getting at. The effect of the blank page that when you open your IDE and you need to write out everything from scratch can get really scary. I know this from my experience because I've been procrastinating on my projects quite a lot in the beginning. So this is very important to pick something that you like, because then it will be easier to translate it into the future. For example, if you know that you like I don't know, Forex or crypto, then don't pick something for Diablo or anything else, or maybe recipe application or anything of sorts, because it is going to be much easier for you to actually write something that you really programming, and that is the technologies that suit your role that you are going into. So very, very important part, maybe a little bit something that is, let's say, obvious. However, when you're trying for any certain role and you do not like the role, and sorry, not that you do not like the role, but rather you don't know the technologies that are for the specific role, then I would say that you need to really adjust your portfolio to use the technologies. For example, If you are going into a role of a Java developer that has everything to do with Spring, then learn Spring and get Spring projects into your portfolio. You can even adjust the visibility of your repositories for GitHub or any other tool that you're trying to use to actually make sure that the things that you are then putting in match the job description that you are going into. So this is a very nice way to actually be able to get even this more of an edge over other people, because you have the technologies that are pinpointed to the exact thing that the recruiters are expecting out of you. Then I'm talking about comprehensiveness, a hard word for me. So it needs to really be something that is comprehensive enough. And by that, I mean that it needs to have a good description. It needs to be presented nicely. It needs to be good language in there. For example, right now we've got the AI on the spot. So please just go into ChatGPT and try to write out what your project does, what did you do there, and what technologies did you use, and try to ask it to generate a good kind of description for it, because then it is going to be much easier to get to know what your project actually does. If you don't have it, then it's going to be very, very hard to just go into the code and try to guess what you really did mean when you wrote out your code without any documentation. So right now, this fourth point is about creating a good README. And then, of course, once again, business-oriented README. So without a properly, what actually do I mean by business-oriented README? By that, I mean, try to write it out in such a way that somebody that is not 100% into coding will get to know what your application actually does. Imagine that you are a user of Facebook. Of course, you don't really need to know what actually happens underneath, what are the exact specifications of the Facebook code base, but you do know how to use it, right? Because you get this sort of presentation of the functionalities and how to actually interact with them. So that's what I would like for you to do also in your README of the projects that you are trying to use as your flagships. But on that note, we'll talk a little bit more later on in the presentation. What I want to show you right now is actually the type of portfolio, or maybe a GitHub profile, as you might say, that is actually converting very nicely and is nice to look at. So with that being said, let's look at the examples that I have found on the internet, and actually they are pretty there are pretty good templates that you can then use as an inspiration for your portfolios. So let's look at this one. So this one is from Sai Rashid, and he's a full stack developer, and actually I very much like the way that it is structured. Why? Because he's defining himself in the language that he's actually has a job in, because he's a co-founder at Mango Tree. And you can see that it is, first of all, a bit funny. It is unique. You can't really find this anywhere else. You've got all the essential links to this person really at the top, and you really get to know who he is. And it doesn't really look like something that is written by ChatGPT. It's not generic, and you can really see what is happening over here. So if you are using an object-based program or rather code or rather language, then I would say that this is a very nice way to actually present yourself to really get people to know you. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, you want the people to like you, the ones that you are recruiting you, and then you want to get them to know you. So this is a nice tool. Also here you've got what type of technologies he also knows, apart from the main technologies and the main stuff that he's saying that he likes and he's writing code into, and what is his education and what are his hobbies. Then there are some things that are then optional. So this is his main stack, what he always plays with. So we've got here some JavaScript, I believe this is HTML. Then we've got Postgres, Ruby, Ruby on Rails, Figma, and the things that are not 100% his cup of tea. And then we've got some quick statistics about what he has. And then a little bit below, you can see that there are some repositories that you can actually use for your portfolio. So it is like a two-step portfolio. First, you've got About Me page, and then you've got the page with the pinned repositories. And about the contributions that we have here, he of course has quite a lot of them. 2.2K in the last year is actually a lot of code. But a key thing that I want to also notice is that he's a co-founder in a company. That's why there's quite a lot of them. And then I would say that first of all, you can write out some code and to have really proper commitments, and it is good to have quite a lot of them. However, I would say that still, as a programmer in a commercial position, you are not really going to be contributing in your free time really focus on your outside projects. So I would say it's a good thing if you don't have quite a lot of them, especially if you are currently working in a company. So let's take a look at Bamboo Sticks to really see what he put in there as a README. So first of all, we've got the description, which is pretty straightforward. Commands to run. This is very important for your project as well. If you have something in Spring that you want to then give out as a project, you need to put there what is the command, what is the jar that they need to build, or simply just give the jar. Bonus points here if you include a link over here to the deployed application that somebody can use based on this code. So that's also something that is a very nice tip for your particular case. Then you've got other gems, and of course by that, those are just technologies that have been used to really work on the project. In this case, this is a Ruby on Rails project. That's why we've got gems, and we've got the toolings that were used for it. So this is the backend, this is the front end, what was used to really build something with a proper description, which is also very nice. And then we've got some stuff for test. And of course, in your project, you can translate this very easily to the things that you would like to also give out. You get the testing suite, the kitchen sink, the GitHub actions and templates, and then all the changes. So I would say this is actually a very nice project to give out, because you see what are the technologies, what it is meant to do, and then what actually you need to do to actually be able to run it on your PC. So this is very, very nice. And if we were to take a look at the history of commits, then we can see that they are pretty comprehensive, and we get to know what actually has happened, right? Style, docs, features that have been added, and if we were to go into any sort of them, then we could see the pull requests that were created to actually try and merge those changes. So quite a lot of work and love has really been given to this particular repository. So with that being said, let's go to another example, and in this case, it is going to be lerob.io, and here you can see what actually has been done with this project. We've got the framework, the database, the authentication, deployment, styling, analytics, so all the tools that were used to really build this project. Then we've got how to run it locally, so very similar to what we had there, the database schema and the license. This code is a little bit more, let's say, on the backend side. We don't have much information about what it actually does. However, I would say that it still tracks. If you are building something that is super specific, then I would still say that you need to put in there information about what it actually does. However, this is a collection of more projects than a single one. So that's why there is quite a lot of stuff going on here, and there is more about just the technologies that were used. So to sum it up a little bit about what has been happening and what really does comprise of a good level of portfolio, let's talk a little bit and sum up what a good README looks and how to write it. So first of all, what we have seen right over there, we need a good description that really outlines what the project actually does, what is in there, what are the most important information, what is the core of the project, and what do you want to achieve with it. Then we've got the technologies, we've got how to run it locally, because let's be honest, if somebody gets your code out of the way, then they would like to run it locally. And if they can't do it because there is some special magic that is only specific to your specific machine, then it is going to be very annoying and it does not look good. So try to think about it in a way that how it would look like for somebody to actually try to use your code to build something on their own. Then, of course, we've got the technology stack, we've got the testing stack, and apart from that, you got some information about some caveats, about some things that you would like to include in there, maybe a roadmap. If it's a smaller product of yours, then I would also recommend trying to include something like a roadmap for you, so that you can actually try and write out what you have done in there and what do you plan to do. So this is also very nice to have in your future projects, so that you can actually convince people that you are working on it, you have a good idea of what you want to achieve, and what is the plan for you to build those projects. By the way, I will be dropping a template about it on how to write a proper README file in next week on the DevLaunch School group. So I would say that this is pretty much it about the portfolios, the portfolio building, why is it important, and what can you actually achieve with a portfolio. If you would like to have your own portfolio reviewed, then please head on to the DevLaunch school group that will be in the description of this. And yeah, with that being said, thank you very much. And I'm hoping that I will see you on the next webinars that I will be hosting as well, about portfolios, about resumes, and about all things coding that you can use to actually get your first job. Thank you very much for watching and have a good one.